Hi, this is Cherie Currie of the Runaways, and you're listening to Backstage Access, where the real show begins.
Hey, this is Gus Grussinger here with author, chainsaw artist, and legendary vocalist Cherie Currie. You may remember Cherie from her days as the lead vocalist of the Runaways. On April 28th, Cherie will be releasing a digital version of Boulevards of Splendor with 3 bonus tracks. So, Cherie, I want to ask you, I think today, a year ago today, was the actual release of the vinyl version. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
So today's,
boy, time flies.
as I say, today's a lucky day.
Yeah, it is. It seems to be pretty good timing right now to put this record out.
So it's been a year, obviously, so it's kind of out there, but this is going to be the extended version, plus obviously anybody who wasn't able to grab the limited release last year is going to be able to grab it this time around. So what I want you to do is talk about this particular version of the record, and also I also want you to talk about getting involved with Matt Sorum to, create this record.
Well, Matt had reached out to me in 2009. He wanted me to do some background vocals for his now wife's music, and unfortunately I was too busy right at that moment we were in production of the Runaways film, pardon me, and so I reached out to him when I had some free time, and not only to say, look, I'd love to sing for you if you need me to. And by the way, I have been asked to open for Joan Jett at the Pacific Amphitheater in March. And do you know anybody that I need to put a band together? And Matt just turned around and he goes, I'll play. It was like, what? I was floored. I mean, Matt's a powerhouse, amazing superstar all on his own. And that man went out of his way to put together just the greatest band. I brought my son on board, but he put together Nick Mayberry, who has been with me ever since we made this record, and Grant Fitzpatrick of The Cult. And we were offered a record deal the same evening that I opened for Joan. And then Kenny Laguna wanted to offer us a deal as well. So Kenny was my manager at the time. So, of course, I went with Kenny and Blackheart Records, and we made a great record. And working with Matt was such a great experience. He's serious. I mean, this guy is like the real deal when it comes to producing, and he micromanages and everything. Being a drummer, I would totally understand that. In order to be a great drummer, you have to be orientated. What's the right word? Oriented.
Well, it would be oriented, and it would also be probably being a drummer, timing is everything, and
Exactly.
I can see that.
And he caught everything, that guy. I mean, you just couldn't be sloppy around Matt. There was just no way. You didn't make mistakes either. My son learned that the hard way. But he had a vision, and we ran with that vision of his.
And it is a great record, and there's a lot of different artists that are actually on this record, and I kind of want you to talk about the various people that played on it, and actually how did they lay their framework on it. Did you have like actual tracks written before they got involved, or did they come with ideas? I want to kind of feel the process of how you actually put this together.
Well, of course, Queens of Noise and Air That I Breathe were 2 songs that I wanted to do, that I'd always wanted to do. Air That I Breathe from the Hollies.
Right.
Queens of Noise from the Runaways, of course, to pay some homage to Sandy West, who we had lost just a handful of years before.
Right.
You Wreck Me, I wrote in 20 minutes and picked up the phone and sang it for Matt over the telephone, and he got together with me and Lenny Cardola, and we finished writing that song. He brought, Mr. X to the table. That was a song that he and Slash and Duff had recorded but never truly released. So it was that kind of a thing. Now, Billy Corgan is very close to Matt. He called Billy. Billy loved the idea of writing a duet for he and I to sing together, which he did.
Yeah, the title track,
And
amazing.
yes, he just, what a giving, wonderful human being, besides just being a genius. The Veronicas, of course, were very good friends of Matt. They're big Runaways fans, and I just love those girls. I mean, they were so much fun in the studio. Juliette Lewis, friend of Matt's as well, he brought her on board. And Brody Dale, who was a Runaways fan, and her singing Queens of Noise with me. I mean, what you see on the video is the live performance. That's what we ended up using for the vocals, true, on the record. So it was just a parade of incredibly talented people coming into the studio to do something with me and Matt, and I was absolutely humbled by all of it. Really humbled.
My two favorite tracks are Forced to Be Reckoned With and Shades, which is actually kind of weird because for me, probably the two most opposite songs on the record, because Shades is a ballad and Forced to Be Reckoned With is probably the most hardest or most edgiest track, I should say, on the record. So you want to talk about those two tracks a little bit?
Sure. Well, I brought Jake with me to Holly's house, and she and Jake basically wrote Forced to Be Reckoned With. I think I might threw some lyrics in there. I don't quite remember. And Shades, Jake wrote. And he brought that song to, my son wrote it, and Matt wasn't totally sold on the lyrics. So we rewrote some of those lyrics, but on my album, Reverie, we went right back and we re-recorded that song. Jake and I did it as a duet on Reverie, which came out, that Jake and Kim Fowley produced. And that, we did not change any of the lyrics. That's Jake from beginning to end, and he's just a brilliant songwriter, my kid. I mean, he really, truly is. So, Jake wasn't 100% thrilled with our changes to his song, but, all I can say is now we've got two cool versions of a really terrific tune, which is Shades.
Yeah. And, like you said, if he's learning as he's going, he's learning, obviously, and, and I guess this is part of the learning process. So, and it's cool that you got a son that's actually kind of following in mom's footsteps a little bit,
He long surpassed me many, many, many years ago. But taking him on tour with me was terrific because by the time he went out with his band Maudlin Strangers, he was well seasoned on tour. So I felt really comfortable. He was only 19 when I believe he was 23 when I started touring. I think it was in 2004. And he's 29 now. So we roomed together even. It was so much fun, to be able to spend that kind of time. And we had some really terrific shows too. A lot of people, and of course, first time he walked out on stage really was opening for Joan Jett to a sold-out crowd at the Pacific Amphitheater. I mean, you can't ask for better than that.
Right. And sharing that with, like I said, your son that's got to be one of your ultimate highlights performing, I'm sure.
Absolutely. That was the night. That was the night of my life.
Yeah,
truly.
I can see that for sure. I want to talk about the bonus tracks a little bit, and I want to talk about "Gimme." The saxophone work on it's fantastic. I'm not sure who did that, but it's great if you want to talk about that track.
Yeah, that was Jimmy Z.
Okay.
I brought Jimmy Z in to do the saxophone on that. He's terrific. You just cut Jimmy loose, and he plays harmonica. He's amazing. He came in when I opened for Glenn Danzig at the old Gibson, the last show the Gibson ever had, which used to be the Universal Amphitheater, where I saw my very first ever rock concert, and it was David Bowie's Diamond Dogs.
Okay.
So to be able for Glenn to ask me to open for him at the Gibson right before they tore that iconic place down was a gift by Glenn. And now I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's okay. You're talking about Jimmy Z on a saxophone on Gimme and how the track came about.
Yeah, and Jimmy came and jumped on stage with me at the Gibson, which is really a lot of fun. He and I go way back, me and Jimmy. So he just, I called Jimmy up, had him come down, and he just really did a great job. I mean, really kind of, with a little bit of, we threw a little bit of Beach Boys stuff, too, in that song, What Do All the People Know?
Right.
And that's a cool tune.
It is a very cool tune. And the other track, Queens of Noise, which obviously is a Runaways cover, out of all the Runaways tracks that you could have covered, I was just curious why that one.
Well, because we just kind of discussed, paying homage to Sandy West. It was drumming-wise, a pretty heavy song, and
right.
also getting Brody and getting Juliet and the Veronicas and, the other queens of the music business, basically, and pay homage to them as well. So it was about a bunch of girls coming together with Sandy West in our hearts and singing our hearts out for her. And Matt really went the extra mile in drumming everything he did. He studied everything that Sandy played and how she played that song. And that's how he played the song, exactly the way Sandy did.
2009.
I've been so proud.
Yeah, it's actually a great track, and it's cool how it all came together with everybody involved. And I was just curious, but it actually does fit with all the women involved and Matt backing. It fits that title. I believe it fits the record perfectly. I was just curious to see why that track was picked, but obviously it makes a lot of sense on how it came out. So,
Sure.
2019 was a very busy year for you, as you collaborated with Fanny drummer and vocalist Brie Darling to release another album titled Motivator. And obviously this record, as we're speaking about, it's 2019, you could say, is kind of almost going back to the 70s when releasing multiple albums in one year was very commonplace. Did you feel that last year, working so much?
You know what? I was putting my house on the market. I was in escrow for some land up north. I was going to build a couple of cabins and just be a chainsaw artist the rest of my life and do the occasional, I didn't want to live far enough away where I couldn't just jump in my car and come down and do a session if I wanted to. But I had a real nice piece of land picked out. And then I went and sang for Fanny Walk the Earth and met Brie. And it was her husband, Dave Darling, who is a Grammy-nominated producer, that just saw something in me and thought that Brie and I could really make a record together. I didn't believe much of it. I mean, to me, it was a lot of talk, like what always seems to happen. But he was serious. The next thing I knew, Brie and I just got along so well that we decided to give it a go. And Blue Alon Records signed us, and we had a lot of fun making that record. And again, it was completely out of the blue. It wasn't anything I had worked for. It wasn't anything that I had strived to do. It just showed up, and it changed my life. Here I'm still in the same house that I bought 22 years ago now, and I'm here for at least a few years. Now I can actually figure out where I really want to live. And, and I get to put this record that I'd made with Matt 10 years ago, have a conclusion there, some finality, and go do some shows is what I'm looking forward to, and really bringing this to life.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but I actually want to jump into your other passion, which is chainsaw art. And probably people are like, what is he talking about? I actually want you to talk about your interest and how you became interested in chainsaw art, and talk about your studio in Chatsworth, California.
Well, that chainsaw art found me. I was a relief carver at the time, which is basically just two-dimensional carving like tabletops, wall hangings, that kind of a thing. And I happened to be going to Malibu one day. I was sitting on the back of a motorcycle and happened to pass a couple of guys chainsaw carving at the side of the road. And I could not get that out of my head. Now, we didn't stop, but this voice kept telling me, that voice that we always have to listen to is, you have to go back. Every night I went to bed, you have to go back. I get up, you have to go back. And I went back, and I walked into this gallery and saw these beautiful mermaid sculptures and dolphins and seals and tikis and bears, and they were gorgeous. They were beautifully detailed pieces of art. It wasn't like the lumberjack kind of bears that you kind of see a lot. These were fine pieces of art, and this voice in my head said, you can do this. And it shocked me as much as it shocks everybody else when I say I'm a chainsaw artist. So I talked to Rio, who was the owner of the Malibu Mountain Gallery, and I said, I'd like to apprentice here if you wouldn't mind. And he looked at some of my relief work, and he said, sure. And I pretty much out the gate started winning ribbons, and I started competing in 2005, and I placed in some major competitions and opened 2 galleries, and which I closed my second one down when the Runaways movie went into production, simply because I'd be carving and I'm in the zone. Of course, it's a very dangerous thing that I'm doing, and all of a sudden someone would tap me on the back and scare me to death, number one. But I'd turn around, they had albums for me to sign, and so I really realized that it was time for me to close that gallery down. And so I built a place here at home, and I've been carving here ever since.
So the studio in Chatsworth is closed, you're saying?
Yes, I closed that in 2009.
Okay. So you're just carving out of your home now?
I carve at my property, yes.
Okay. So, and you still have a website that's actually, that people can go on and check your work out and purchase if they want to do that, correct?
Absolutely. Now, I basically carve now per order.
Okay.
So you can reach me at chainsawchick, CHICK.com. Click on the camera new feature icon under the picture, the main photograph of me next to that praying 8-foot woman, and that takes you to just albums. I kind of show people step by step how I carve hundreds of different carvings that I've done. And if you're interested in something, you hit the contact, and it goes directly to my private email, and we discuss. And the cool thing is there isn't anything that I can't do. So people reach out, they tell me what they want, and I carve it for them, and I ship it out.
It's amazing stuff. I saw some of the stuff, and I have to ask this, and I'm sure I know what the answer is going to be, but I have to ask it anyways. If you had to pick out one piece that you ever created, what would be your true favorite piece, and why?
I think that would have to be the Kelly Thomas bench that I carved. It's a guitar bench. The back of it, the backrest, is a Martin guitar. And I carved that. He was killed by the Fullerton Police Department a number of years back, and I carved his story into this bench that was auctioned off for the Kelly Thomas Foundation. His dad, Ron Thomas, and I become very, very good friends. And I really put my heart and soul into that bench, and I stained it. It's just a simply beautiful piece of art. I have an open book with a quote and a quill, because he loved to do writing, and a nest of birds and a mama bird that's a different color from the baby birds, just kind of like how we need to come together, in a peace sign on the side, and musical notes that held the backrest. It was really, truly a labor of love. So I think that's my favorite.
And getting back to what you were just kind of talking about tour dates, and if and when the pandemic ends and we start getting back to somewhat of a normality, when can we expect future tour dates from you going forward in the rest of 2020?
Once we
Hopefully.
you answered the question.
Yeah, hopefully.
You answered the question. Yeah. Once it gets back to some normality, you know, we'll venture into that idea. But I think it would be so much fun. And I have a lot of musician friends that would love to do it and be a part of it. So fingers crossed, right?
We
Fingers
hope.
crossed.
Hopefully, yes. And, you know, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us at Backstage Access. The record's fantastic. Everybody should go out and grab it. You know, obviously it comes with the 3 bonus tracks, and I believe it'll be out later this month. I'm not sure on the day. I think it's April 28th, I said earlier. So, yeah,
Yes,
April 28th.
and you know what? And I have to thank you very much for your support and for helping me out here getting the word out there. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you are such a pleasure to talk to. And I look forward to speaking to you again.
Here comes Mr. X.